"You're the father," she insisted. But we hadn't shared a bed in months. The words hit harder than any storm ever could. My coffee slipped from my hand and shattered across the hardwood floor as I stared at the woman standing in my doorway. Her hands rested protectively over the gentle curve of her pregnant belly, her eyes swollen from crying, yet filled with a certainty that made no sense at all. We had been separated for months. We hadn't shared a home, a bed, or even much hope. And yet there she was, looking straight into my soul, insisting that the child she carried belonged to me. Before we continue, if you believe that kindness, hope, forgiveness, compassion, and second chances still matter in this world, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, leave a thoughtful comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these heartfelt stories reach more people every single day. My name is Jacob, and I lived in a quiet neighborhood outside Nashville, Tennessee. My wife Sarah and I had spent nearly 11 years building what we believed was a peaceful life together. We weren't wealthy, and we weren't perfect, but we had always found comfort in simple evenings on the porch, Sunday church services, and dreams of one day becoming parents. That dream slowly turned into heartbreak after years of disappointing doctor visits. We never blamed each other, but grief has a strange way of creating distance where love once stood. Conversations became shorter, smiles became rarer. Eventually, Sarah moved into her sister Rebecca's guest room while we both tried to decide whether our marriage still had anything left to save. During those lonely months, I buried myself in work as a building inspector, convincing myself that keeping busy would silence the ache. Friends encouraged me to move on, but I couldn't bring myself to remove my wedding ring. Every night I found myself staring at old photographs, wondering where we had lost each other. Then came the afternoon that changed everything. Sarah appeared unexpectedly, carrying the weight of a secret that seemed impossible. She quietly explained that she was expecting a baby and believed without question that I was the father. My heart filled with confusion instead of joy. The timeline didn't make sense to me, and neither did her unwavering confidence. Part of me wanted to believe her. Another part feared that believing would only leave me more broken than before. The following weeks became the hardest season of my life. Rumors spread through our church community before anyone knew the truth. Some assumed the worst. Others whispered that I had abandoned my family. My own parents struggled to understand while Sarah refused to defend herself against the gossip. She simply repeated that the truth would reveal itself in time. Watching her endure judgment without bitterness unsettled me more than any accusation ever could. Instead of growing angry, she volunteered at the local food pantry, helped elderly neighbors carry groceries, and continued caring for everyone except herself. It reminded me of the woman I had fallen in love with years earlier. Finally, after countless sleepless nights, Sarah asked me to meet her at the small park where we had shared our first date. The autumn leaves drifted around us as she slowly revealed something I had completely forgotten. Several months before our separation became official, we had spent one quiet weekend trying to reconnect after counseling. We had laughed for the first time in months, talked honestly about our fears, and held on to each other believing healing was still possible. The pain that followed afterward had erased that precious memory from my mind, but not from hers. Her doctor had carefully reviewed every medical record, every ultrasound, and every estimate. The baby's development matched those dates perfectly. My own confusion had come from counting backward from the day she moved out, instead of remembering the weekend when hope briefly returned to our marriage. Even then, I wrestled with guilt for doubting her. Sarah never demanded an apology. She simply reached for my trembling hand and reminded me that pain makes people forget the best parts of their own lives. Months later, our daughter Grace entered the world on a peaceful spring morning. The moment I held her tiny fingers wrapped around mine, years of disappointment seemed to melt away. Tears filled my eyes as I realized that sometimes the greatest miracle isn't proving who's right. It's finding the courage to trust again after life has convinced you not to. Recovery wasn't instant. Sarah and I attended counseling together, rebuilt our communication one conversation at a time, and learned that forgiveness is not a single decision but a daily commitment. We stopped trying to erase our painful past and instead allowed it to teach us how precious honesty, patience, and faith truly are. If this story has touched your heart so far, Please take a moment to support the video by liking it, sharing it with friends or family, and subscribing for more uplifting stories filled with hope and compassion. Every bit of support helps these messages reach someone who may need them today. Before we reach the ending, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment and tell us, do you believe trust can be rebuilt after misunderstanding, or do some wounds never fully heal? Your thoughts may encourage someone reading through the comments. Years later, I still smile whenever I remember that impossible afternoon at my front door. What first sounded like the beginning of the end became the first step toward rebuilding a family stronger than the one we had almost lost. Life taught me that truth doesn't always arrive wrapped in certainty. Sometimes it arrives carrying fear, tears, unanswered questions, and a quiet invitation to believe in someone one more time. And when kindness meets patience, and forgiveness overcomes pride, even the most fragile hearts can find their way home again.